"21 Questions, Episode 1. Sin is not nice and stuff." Question 1. What is the 10th article of the Apostles' Creed? The 10th article of the Apostles' Creed is the forgiveness of sins. What do you mean by the forgiveness of sins? By the forgiveness of sins, I mean that Christ has left the power of forgiving sins to the priests of his church. See John's Gospel, chapter 20, verse 23. How are sins forgiven? Sins are forgiven mainly by the sacraments of baptism and reconciliation. If the sacraments are unavailable, sins are also forgiven when the sinner has a perfectly sorry heart, a firm will never to sin again, and an honest desire to receive reconciliation when it is available. What is sin? Sin is an offence against God by any thought, word, deed, or omission against the law of God. How many kinds of sin are there? There are 2 kinds of sin: original sin and actual sin. What is original sin? Original sin is that guilt and stain of sin which we inherit from Adam and Eve, our first parents. What was the sin committed by Adam and Eve? The sin committed by Adam and Eve was the sin of disobedience when they ate the forbidden fruit. Have all humans the guilt and stain of original sin? All humans do have the guilt and stain of original sin, except one creature, the Blessed Virgin Mary. What is this privilege of the Blessed Virgin called? This privilege of the Blessed Virgin is called the Immaculate Conception. What is actual sin? Actual sin is every sin which we ourselves do. How is actual sin divided? Actual sin, go away. Actual sin is divided into 2 types: mortal sin and venial sin. Mortal sin is very bad. Venial sin is bad, but not as bad as mortal sin. What is mortal sin? Welcome back. Mortal sin is a grievous offence against God, very serious. Why is it called mortal sin? It is called mortal sin because it kills the soul. How does mortal sin kill the soul? Mortal sin kills the soul by depriving it of sanctifying grace. It gets rid of sanctifying grace. What is sanctifying grace? Sanctifying grace is the supernatural life of the soul. So just as your physical body has life within it, and when it is deprived, you die, so too your soul has a supernatural life within it called sanctifying grace. It's the life of your soul, and it can be killed through mortal sin. Where's he gone? Here he is. Is it a great evil to fall into mortal sin? It is. It is the greatest of all evils to fall into mortal sin. But we all do it. Where do you go if you die in mortal sin? They who die in mortal sin will go to hell for all eternity. Ooh. What should I do then to avoid mortal sin? To avoid sin and hell, so you don't go to hell, you should do these 2 things. Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus said this. But who is my neighbor? Everyone is your neighbor, even your enemy, as Jesus told us when he told us the parable of the Good Samaritan. So that's mortal sin, but what is venial sin? Venial sin is an offence which does not kill the soul, but it displeases God and often leads to mortal sin. It is not as serious as mortal sin, and most of us commit venial sins every day, but we still need to be sorry for them. Why is it called mortal sin? No. Why is it called venial sin, this lesser sin? It is called venial sin because it is more easily pardoned than mortal sin. It does not kill the soul, but it does displease God, and we have to say sorry for it. And